Well, we've been waiting now nearly a week to hear from the Europeans. Of course, they're waiting to see what happens here in Westminster until they decide on this extension. Boris Johnson's written this letter to Jeremy Corbyn in which he said he expects there to be an extension. He'd like it to be short. He expects it'll be long. What he's offering Jeremy Corbyn is the possibility to get this Brexit deal through Parliament by November the 6th, as opposed to getting everything done by October 31st. And he says that if that happens, he'd still want to go for an election because this Parliament's broken. So the question then is, what does he do to get Jeremy Corbyn to agree? Here's what Corbyn said in response to this offer.
Take no deal off the table, and we absolutely support an election. I've been calling for an election ever since the last one because this country needs one in order to deal with all the social injustice issues. But no deal must be taken off the table.
So Corbyn changing the goalpost, don't they?
A little bit, yeah. I think
he asked for an extension and then said we'd have an election. Now they've got an extension. He's not saying we're
Well,
his
argument is we don't have an extension yet. And so that's why the European side, you end up with a slight chicken and egg situation. But he's saying...
Right.
Well, exactly. He doesn't want to commit to that election until he knows that no deal is off the table for October 31st. There are some in the party who'd like it to be off the table at the end of 2020, which would mean this would go on for even longer. In terms of what happens next, we've got this vote potentially being called on Monday. Johnson needs 434 MPs, two-thirds majority, in order to get an election on his terms. And as you and I were just talking in the break, you know, that's not a very easy thing to do. No. There are alternative ways for him to get there, but neither are necessarily palatable.
Well, the tortuous route is a no-confidence vote, isn't it? Just very briefly before Jeff's question, he can get to his election via that two-thirds, changing the Fixed-Term Parliament Act rules, or getting on the base of those, but he can also get there via a no-confidence vote, but then he gives the opposition 14 days to put together a minority government, potentially. His worst scenario, potentially, is if the opposition get together and say, OK, we'll have an election, but after we've voted in a second referendum.
These are all real possibilities.
Yeah, what about this the aspect of the DUP and the SNP at this point? I mean, surely both of them would be really keen to support a new election because that would be an opportunity for a sorting out.
SNP have said again and again, more than any of the other parties, they'd like to see an election. The question is, would they be the ones, in a rather unorthodox way, to table that motion of no confidence, given they're not the largest opposition party, but they are clearly the most vociferously in favour of a new election? It's a really difficult question to see whether they do that, whether they'd be able to persuade Labour to go with them. There are very few good options for the opposition to take control of this process fully.
Well, I was just going to say, and yet there was a new poll suggesting that Scots won't vote for independence at this point, so the SNP might not be keen, actually. Because even as they say they want it, just like Labour, they say they want it. They'll hold back from providing support.
And there are lots of good reasons. If you're a Scottish MP, you don't want to be campaigning in mid-December. And that goes for many other parliamentarians because of the lack of light, the cold, the low turnout, potentially. There's lots of strong reasons you wouldn't want to election then.
Will it be a flexi extension, as they're talking about, i.e. with a short-term frame and then to the end of January being the long-term?
We could find out in about 4 hours' time.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.